do you want the background? Do you want no, this is good?
This is perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do it,
Beautiful,
man. I
brother.
love this. I love this.
So if you're watching this right now, this is my good friend, Jay Calrissian. And
Yep.
Jay is an amazing human. He's really got life going for him all the time. This guy is a gas pedal floored human being who thrives. Frankly, he's just thriving in incredible ways, which is very, very inspiring. And one of the things that I had the privilege, truly the honor and privilege to do, is to coach this fine man through some
Yeah,
rough
you did.
points in his life and get him kind of over some of the challenges and struggles with a bit more ease and grace so that he could go from the survival place to now the thriving place. And I think I played about this much of a part in it because as a coach, the truth is he has to do all the work. And I just hold his hand, kick him in the ass, nudge him wherever need be. And so we're here today just to catch some of Jay's reflections about the coaching experience, how that went for him. What would he recommend for others in regard to that as they are working through their life challenges? Jay, welcome.
Thanks, Roger. I just got to point out that that's kind of an understatement. I think you got me through the roughest time in my life, and it wasn't really this much of an influence. It was like a chunk like this, it was a big chunk. There were times when like my world didn't make any sense whatsoever, and you got to see into it in a way that nobody else did. But your insights and your knowledge that you brought to the table were transformative in my life, and their ripple effect is still with me today and everything that I do. It has been quite a journey, but I'm glad to be on the other side of that part of my life, and I appreciate you so much for doing that.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And it's an honor to receive that. I always have a hard time with praise, but what the heck, I'm working on that aspect of myself. And I
Yep.
think that that's one of the things that is so important to understand about coaching in general. It is always a work in progress. And as we get through certain places, what ends up typically happening is people kind of up level a little bit. I think that's a fair way to say it. They become more engaged with life again instead of feeling kind of beat down, victimized, like, my God, what's happening? Now we've got some perspective back and we're able to really stand in that new perspective. Now we're orienting to the world in a new way. And what's interesting is every relationship we have is changed. They all are shifted. Some shift away, some shift closer, but life is going to change. And that can also be a disorientation. And so it's nice sometimes to revisit things. Like I personally have 3 mentors and coaches that I connect with just about weekly. And the reason is it's really more of a trade than it is getting directly mentored or coached. That's what they would tell you. But for me, no, I'm getting mentored and coached all the time because I'm not interested in standing still, in being stagnant. And that's one of the things I appreciate most about you is you are always challenging yourself with the next thing. It doesn't matter if it's as a dad of amazing boys or as a partner of amazing woman. It doesn't matter if it's business, you're always interested in the next level. And that means we're going to run out of our bandwidth and get into places where we're like, ooh, I'm not so sure about this. Can you speak to that idea of how it's cool to up level, practice, put it out into the real world, and then come back to reorient?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it's a bunch of different levels there. Definitely because I'm a dad, because I've got 2 kids. I'm a single dad. I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. And when my world kind of blew up and I separated from my wife, I was a stay-at-home dad for 7 years, and I didn't know what my next move was. I had no idea where I was going to do or what career I was going to get into. And I dabbled in a bunch of stuff, and it's very hard to come out of 7 years of not working a career, not having a boss, not having a job, not having those responsibilities, not making money, to all of a sudden, I've got a house, I've got a mortgage, I've got 2 kids, I've got to figure this all out real fast. And it was chaos. My whole world was just chaos. So being able to have that reflection bounce back at me at regular meetings with Rodger was super helpful, because I got to be like, who do I want to be? And we got to dive into all these things of where I needed to level up. What were the things that I had to focus on, and what were the toxic things that I had to shift away from? So it's not just about like, can I level up, but is this thing really affecting me in a way that it's not helping anybody, not helping me? And I don't drink anymore. I don't do any drugs. I don't smoke. I eat healthy. I work out. I'm happier than I've ever been. And I had to step into something that was really out of my wheelhouse. I went back to school. I had to get licensed. I'm going to be a real estate agent. And doing that was, I mean, I'm in my 40s and going back to school was like not even a concept 5 years ago. It was like not a chance. And showing my kids that, yeah, sometimes stuff happens and you've got to step up, and you've got to do some pivots, and you've got to shake it up a little bit and do some things that are really uncomfortable. And it's weird because in my circle of friends, I'm now the one that's kind of leading that charge. People are like, well, Jay's doing this, and people come to me for advice to do these things, and it happens all the time. Well, how do you get healthier? How are you in such good shape? Or how are you changing your career in your 40s? And I'm like, well, you just got to start doing it. You got to start doing these little bits, and it's like a muscle. You've got to train it. It's like anything. Practice, practice, practice. Practice being better at your diet. Practice being more in control and disciplined with your exercise. And all of a sudden, all these other things start getting easier. So it is, and it's really nice to have somebody that's done it before, that's shifted, that's pivoted, to kind of guide you through that. Your advice, not even advice, your actual practical, like, go do this thing and this will happen, was so important to me, because I couldn't make those decisions. But it was like, try it. Try doing this. Try some breathwork practices and see what that does for you. Go hit a heavy bag when you're really pissed off and see what that does for you. And it was those little tools that you gave me that I was like, oh yeah, this is effective. And still, I use these things constantly. I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I got a big day. I'm going to do breath work for 15 minutes before I start this day. And it just sets me up in a whole different mindset. And that day is way better. I've got an ice bath in my backyard. I get in there, and it's a tool that I use. There's all these tools that I use that I've set up through the process of coaching that I know are effective for me. And it's not like I had to do it, but it was like an option. Try this, see what it does for you. Try this, see what it does for you. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good one. And now I use those tools, and I share them with my friends also. So it's such a good tool belt that I have, like a toolbox, like a garage full of tools now that I have, that I can tap into and have that outcome that I'm looking for. It is. It's very logical, and it's very effective when you set it up that way.
It's a beautiful reflection, and there's two things in there that I think are just phenomenal. The first one is you're willing to try. And, I like to say that I'm going to throw a few spaghetti noodles on your wall, and if something sticks, that's terrific. And the idea is go experiment with that, because being told to do something, it's not so much going to really land as much as it is discovering something. It's like, well, give that a try, see what happens. Let's talk about it. Oh, that didn't work. It landed flat. Great. How about that other noodle? Now that one was great. Right, because you're an individual. And as an individual, what works for you isn't necessarily going to work for others. And sometimes it does. And the other part of this that I love is that now people are looking to you and they're going, wait a minute. Jay was in the shitter a couple of years ago. What's he doing now? How in the world? Oh, yeah. I've tried these things. You should try them too. And then by default, you become a leader. Whether you want to or not, it's part of the deal. When you up level yourself and people notice, they're going to ask you, what are you doing? And what a great honor to then be
Yeah.
able to share some of those reflections with people. Now, there's one part of the coaching process I'd love you to chat about because this drove you to near madness. And that is, I let you knowingly try some things that I was pretty sure weren't going to work out so well, and yet would also lead to some of the greatest discoveries and learning. Talk about that part of the process and how you experienced it.
Yeah, a frustrating process. I'll agree with that one. Yeah, there were a couple things when like I would go back like 2 months later, and I'd be like, "You knew this was gonna happen, didn't you, Rodger?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, I knew." And I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And you're like, "Well, you had to learn. You had to figure it out for yourself." And that's always been a huge thing for me. I've got to have the experiential knowledge. I've got to do it. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna go through it and understand for myself because then I have the experiential knowledge and I know, oh, this happens when I do this. And for me, I mean, I can read all about the Sistine Chapel, but if you go to the Sistine Chapel, it's a whole different experience. You know what it smells like. You know the temperature is in there. It's just different. And sometimes when you're going through life, you've got to experience that relationship with that person, or you've got to go through those struggles to really appreciate the things that you do have. And that was one of the hardest things for me to really understand with my kids is let them fail. And as a coach, I know you were letting me fail at some stuff. And I had to because doing it gave me the lesson in a way that you can never explain to somebody. And now I do it with my kids all the time. We'll try it. Just do the thing. Try it. Do the thing and find out what's going to happen. And they're cooking with me. My 6-year-old just last week, he was flipping a pancake and he touched the frying pan with his hand. And he got a little burn. And I'm like, that's hot, eh? And he's like, yeah, it's hot. It burned him. And he didn't cry or anything, but he was really aware now that, oh, it's hot over there. And when you're flipping stuff, you've got to really be paying attention. You can't be playing around. And it's that learned knowledge, that experiential knowledge that is so much more impactful. And I really appreciate now looking back, I mean, we worked together for years. And looking back on some of it, I was like, why didn't you just tell me? But now I look back at it, I'm like, oh, I really needed that. And that's what shifted me to where I am today. And yeah, it's very valuable. It's a very hard thing to do. So good for you for being able to do that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It is a challenge when you're watching and most likely there's going to be some pain involved in the experience that is going to unfold. But the person is adamant that they want to try that. They want to go after it. And it's like, sure. It's just like with your kids. And I'm not saying that I treat my clients like children. It's not like that.
No,
What it is,
I,
though,
I treat my kids like clients.
and what it really is for me is like, okay, they're going to travel this path. They're adamant about traveling that path. We've kind of talked it out a little bit about what they're going to do. That's all wonderful. And then I also know statistically, this is likely going to end up here and there'll be tremendous learning. But my role is to say, I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to have a conversation about this because I think you're placing yourself in a dangerous situation, a place
Yes,
where harm will come. That I will not allow. A little
yes.
bit of pain, sure, that's the best learning. That's not a problem. So, all that to say, I've got your back, and I'm not going to let you do something that you can't, like, no, you're going to go to jail if you do that one, Jay. That's probably not a good idea. I'm not going to let you go there. So, it's a lot like you as a parent when you look at someone you love, your children, and you're like, yeah, you got a little burn on the stove today. He'll never do that again. Very
Mhm.
minor thing, really deep learning. And it's like, yeah, this is what it's all about. It's experimenting, it's discovering. And then once we're discovering things and we realize you know what? I'm a lot more powerful than I thought I was. That confidence, especially as a man today, where there's so much vitriol about just being a man. Oh, you're toxic because you're a man. Horse shit. There are toxic men out there. We're not that. And so
Yeah.
when you begin to own this, you become empowered, not to arrogance, but to stand firmly in who you are in this world. And man, when you can do that, the world can't beat you up anymore. You won't allow it. You just
Yeah.
simply will never allow it. And that's what I saw happen with you tremendously was more and more confidence, more and more of that foundation got solid and you knew, okay, this is who I am moving forward. And
Yeah.
then so many things smoothed out because you had made a decision about who you were going to be in this world and you had boundaries and you stepped forward with that kind of process. Huge.
Well, I didn't have boundaries at the time. That was the problem, right? Like when we met, I was at rock bottom. And it was a process of learning how to step by step set boundaries, step by step, add tools. And yeah, there were times when I was going to make some really stupid decisions. And you weren't like, whoa, 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 wait a second. You're like, okay, well, let's talk this out. Let's play it out. Let's go through the process of what's going to happen if you do that. And the way that we went through all those situations was so genuine, authentic, caring, but logical at the same time. You're like, okay, well, this is going to happen. And like, yeah, maybe this will happen, maybe this will happen, but what's the outcome you're looking at? And it was really cool because I came to my own conclusions through an hour and a half, whatever we were doing at the time. And I'd come out the other end of it. And from when I would go into a session with you to when I would come out, I would have realized so many things within an hour for myself, but just being able to talk it out with you in that logical way where you're not attacking me, I'm not being defensive, we're just working on the problem together. That was such a game changer, such an amazing game changer for me because the situation I was in was so toxic, was just chewing away at my life, was affecting me as a father, just as a person. I mean, I was at rock bottom. And we figured out a way to climb out of that pit of despair where I was just wallowing in my own self-pity to the point where I'm a thriving individual in the community again. My kids love being around me. I'm teaching I'm coaching their soccer. And like, I mean, it's a whole different world. And looking back at it a couple of years ago, I was like, how am I ever going to get out of this? How am I ever going to be happy again? And it is like, it's almost like I can't even remember being that person. That's how foreign it feels to me now. Holy shit, I was that guy? I was that guy? That's insane. It's insane. I'm never going back there. And I know the red flags when they come up now because I've gone through that process and I've seen it and I've lived it and I have that experience. Yeah, I'm not doing that ever again. You know, and I'm sure there's lots of shit that comes my way. And, oh my God, I got to deal with this. But now it's like, well, I've got the tools and I've got the awareness around that. And I know, okay, oh, this is getting real heavy. I know I've got somebody to call, you know, because I'll still call you, Rodger. I'll be like, okay, let's get on a call. I need something. It's not every week. Now it's like, oh, every couple of months, I got to check in and be like, hey, Rodger, I've got this. But now I've got other people in my life also. I've got those other coaches, and I'm using other people's experiential knowledge to help guide me because it is important. You have to have that person that's really good at, you know, social media. Because again, like you, I'm not a huge social media person, but I've got somebody there that's like, oh, do this, do this, do this, do this. Awesome. Perfect. You need that guidance in your life for those things that you don't have the experiential knowledge for. It is the wisdom of the elders coming down to you. It's not even the elders, but just people with that experiential knowledge. Because I have people in my life that are younger than me, but are really good at something. And I go to them and I'm like, oh, you're 28 years old. I'm not looking down at you. I'm like, oh, you've got this experiential knowledge. You've been doing this, you know, social media for 5 years. You're fantastic at it. You live and breathe it. You're the person I want to talk to for this situation. So having those key people in your life that have that wisdom is super important. And just like, honestly, I'll say, just being a man today is hard. And it's almost like you have this responsibility that you've got to figure it all out yourself. And that's not true. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Find somebody that has that experiential knowledge, that's gone through the grinder, that's like, hey, I can guide you through this, and it's going to be way easier. And I don't know how many guys I've had that conversation with, and I feel great that I can steer them in the right direction. Talk to this person. Talk to Rodger. I mean, I don't know how many people I've sent your way, just like, this would be a good person for you to connect with, because they help me so much, and I see the situation you're in. I see the path you're going down. Maybe you should have some conversations about that. And it will greatly, greatly have a positive impact on your life. I can't state it enough. Find the help you need.
That's such a wonderful reflection. I really appreciate that. And for anybody listening, this is about empowerment. So there's a tendency I've noticed in younger men who are desperate to find something to latch onto as a role model for masculinity, especially. It seems to be a really challenging time for a lot of young men, and especially in areas that kind of propagate that. Like I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I mean, you don't get too much further left leaning than this place. There's nothing wrong with that, but I noticed that there's a lot of challenges with this idea of being a man, being masculine. And I notice some young men, there's kind of a trend in this area where they'll find that pendant, the icon, whatever we want to call it. And then they're like, okay, great. I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do. And what they do is they let go of all aspects of critical thinking and basically just, he says to do this, I should drink my own urine. Okay, I'll just drink my own urine. And, I'm being absurd, but it's kind of like that. They never pause for a minute to go, is it a good idea to drink my own urine? Like, so this
Yeah.
idea is we've
Don't
lost the
don't
art
drink
of,
your own urine, people. Don't drink your own urine. Don't do it. Don't do
we've
it.
lost the art of critical thinking. And so that's the one thing that I really want to, I'm always very careful about this. If I nudge someone in a direction, it's a nudge to say, experiment with this, and then let's talk about your experience. I'm not saying do this and only this, and that's it. That's not how this works. It's like, no, let me drop a couple of noodles on the wall, see how these land for you, and we'll chat about it. Or I may offer a reflection. I'm going to say, Jay, I've got something to share, and this is my bias. This is my perspective, but I'm going to share it with you, and let's kick it around. And then I'll share. And then typically at the end of that, I say, so hearing that, how's that landing for you? What comes up? What would you push back on? What would you think you might want to modify or try? Now we've got a nudge because you were stuck in some spot. You just literally couldn't take another thought in the right direction or any direction. So then it's like, all right, let me nudge you with my bias, my perspective as a stimulating point to discover your own truth and maybe take a different step. So that's the difference between someone who's actually coaching, mentoring versus someone who's telling you how to live your life.
Yeah.
And I get worried about people who latch on to someone. Oh, I study under so and so and I do exactly what they say. I'm thinking to myself, where's the creativity? Where's the innovation? Where's the individuality? Where are you? You're just becoming a sock puppet for that human. And it doesn't mean that that's necessarily wrong, but have you even taken one step back to say, is this right for me? Would I change anything instead of just drinking the Kool-Aid straight down? Dear God, man, think. And that's what I appreciate about you. You always thought, you never, ever had a problem pushing back and just getting right into it with me. Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's perfect. Absolutely. The greatest evolution takes place in a spirited debate where each person is holding an open heart. And that's it right there.
Yeah. And I just want to point something out here. There's a lot of gurus out there. There's a lot of, podcasts and thought leaders and everything that they're selling their ideas. They're selling their, leadership in a way. And that's one aspect of it. But a lot of where I was at the beginning of my turmoil, so to speak, I would go to my friends, and I love them to death. My friends are fantastic, but they didn't always have the best advice. And a lot of the times when we would have, a big situation came up in our lives, the first thing we would do is like, well, let's go get some drinks. Let's go get some alcohol, and we'll just get it out. And all of a sudden you're sitting around with a couple guys drinking, bitching about stuff, complaining, and then it becomes like a pissing match, or who's more of a victim, or there's no real digging deep into the problem and solutions. And I found once that I kind of cut that out, like not cut out my friends, but just cut out going to them for the advice while we're drunk. That's like not the best case scenario. I mean, like, oh no, I have some serious problems now. I need to really have some clear focus on what's happening in my life, with some actual solutions, with some actual things that I can do. And I think that was the most beneficial decision I could have made, is going to the right person to actually like laser focus in on what's happening. Like sometimes there was just one thing that we talked about for an hour, and it was just like, oh man, we like, this is so important. I need to focus all of my attention on this. What are all the case scenarios that can come out of this? And sometimes what happens, oh, give me 1 second.
Absolutely.
Working from home.
Uh-huh.
It is what it is.
So sometimes we would be focusing in on just a single topic for an entire session because it was so important.
It was so important, right? And I think that for me, I need that laser focus, and I need somebody that I can bounce big ideas back and forth off of. And a lot of the time, like, I mean, I said it all the time, you don't go to a vegan and ask them how to cook a steak. Don't do that. They don't know. They don't know. You got to go to the people that actually have the knowledge and that can give you the exact steps that you need, and say, okay, well, this do A, B, and C. Oh, okay, A, B, and C. Oh, that's a great steak. That's what you want to know. You want to have that experiential knowledge telling you these are the steps that you can do. But then you also have the option of doing those steps. It's not, it is, I'm so over the include everyone. Like, there's no critical thinking, there's no judgment whatsoever. We're just blindly being led, and everybody's just being spoon-fed this, but that's not the gold standard. That's not, like, just listening to what other people tell you isn't helping anybody. Step back for a second, be like, wait a second, do I agree with this? Is this the right thing to be doing? We're just giving up our free will, our ability to think critically and judgmentally to make our own decision. Like, now I look at every situation and be like, do I agree with this? Is this where I want to be right now? Is this what I want to do right now? And if it's not a hell yes, I'm out. Like, I need hell yes energy now. I need hell yes energy to, go out and party on the weekend, or can I hang out with my kids? Do I want to be doing that? Do I want to go and stand around in a club and real loud and get drunk and feel like shit for the next day or two now or three? Like, no, I don't want to do that. Hangovers for me in my 40s are a nightmare. They're a nightmare. Have you ever woke up with a 6-year-old and a hangover? That's the worst day possible. It's the worst day. I don't do it. I just don't do it because I know, right? So I think it's that kind of energy that you bring where you will dig into somebody's problem for an hour without judgment, give them options, and then send them on their way. And then come back to it the next week or the next session. I mean, there were some weeks we talked 2-3 times because that's what I needed at the time. And it was amazing because it's so flexible. But at the same time, like having that continuous conversation about what's going on in your life on that high level is a game changer. It is an absolute game changer. I could not be more happy and satisfied with where I am in my life because of the work that we've done together.
It created a really great foundation. And it's really one of the keys there that I love what you said was this idea of being able to experience something where someone is holding a sacred space. They're not afraid of anything. They're willing to let you just dump whatever you need to dump as long as you need to dump it, can track exactly what's going on, pick out the pieces, but more importantly, not hold judgment. I don't hold judgment around anybody. For those
No.
of you who don't know my background, I was a police officer for 20 years. I know human dysfunction. I know trauma, like intimately.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, we're all just humans trying to do the absolute best we can at any given time with the skill sets we have, right? Everyone, even the person who makes a horrible decision, still made that decision from what they knew. And so when we begin to say, I'm not going to judge that, but if you're willing to do the work, let's see if we can up-level you to some different results, some things that don't have pain associated with every decision you make. Like now we're moving that human forward. And if we can just suspend judgment and just say, here's this beautiful being who needs a little bit of guidance, a little bit of support, someone who actually has their back. And not many people anymore tell me, oh, yeah, so and so's got my. So many men are feeling very disaffected, that no one has their back. And in fact, unless they armor themselves, someone's going to stab them in the back. Maybe multiple someone's are going to stab them in the back just because you're a man.
Yep.
Holy moly. So removing all that baggage and holding a sacred space, I mean this literally, because I feel it is a sacred honor to be able to guide someone to a more empowered future. I take that very seriously. The responsibility of that, huge in my world. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you find someone who's willing to take steps with you side by side, now you've got the magic. And that's where the truly empowered future opens up. So when someone comes to me at rock bottom and they've got all these maladaptive coping mechanisms they've been doing to try to ease some of that pain, I totally get it. I 100% understand. And I got you. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited for your future. Like those things are all super fun for me as a coach. I'm uplifted after every coaching session. I can't think of a session where I've gone, oh, that was heavy. I think I need a drink. It's not like that. I'm uplifted and I'm like, yes, that human is taking steps, man. I love it. Love it.
I'm reflecting on our sessions, how they would just go. And it always blew me away after I would think about how it starts. And it was almost the same every time. We would get on, hey, how's it going? And you'd be like, okay, go. And I would go off on a rant for probably about 10 or 15, sometimes 20 minutes. This happened, and holy shit, this is going on, and I don't know what to do about this, and blah, 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 blah. And I would just rant off. And you'd like absorb it, and you'd be like, okay, and you'd be like, all right, are you done? And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. And I'd be all mad and fuming and shit. I'd be like, well, I don't even know what to do. And you'd be like, okay, let's just take a step back here, and we're gonna go through it. Boom, boom, boom. And it blew me away how your mind worked because you could see the whole picture and you would pick out a couple of things. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on this. Let's dig in. And your ability to listen past the words that I was saying was amazing. Okay, so you've said this, and this is probably what's going on in your world, but like, let's dig in there, because I think that maybe this is happening, maybe this is happening, maybe this happened. And I'm like, holy shit, like, how do you know that? And your ability to read between the lines in a very emotional rant, because I'm like, when we would talk, I knew there was no boundary I couldn't cross. I could just throw anything on the table and you'd be like, yeah, okay, give it to me. What else? Yeah. You want to smash that guy with your car and hit him with a baseball bat? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And you'd be like, yeah, I can understand that. This is what you're going to do instead. Try doing this or this or this. And here's some options for you. Oh yeah, that'll keep me out of prison. Thank you so much for that. But it was having those opportunities to I don't even want to say blow off some steam, but just really unleash all of the pent-up anger, the rage that I would have sometimes, because the situation I went through, my separation was so like just outside of the norm for me, at least. I mean, I don't think that kind of stuff happens all the time. It was just at another level of intensity with the situation where it was. I mean, coming out of COVID, there was drugs, there was open relationships. It was just so messy, and it was so infuriating. And what do you do with rage? And if you are an angry man and you've got a lot of shit going on, oh, you're toxic and you got to hide that shit. And oh my God, like, no, I was angry and I needed to be angry. And it was justified so much, my anger. But where do you go with that? What do you do with that? Who do you talk to about that? Because nobody that I knew could handle the anger and the rage that I had. Nobody. People were like, I got to get the fuck away from Jay because he is pissed. Right. And I was like, okay, I don't know who to talk to about this, because my friends are not capable of taking the anger that I had. And to be able to go to you and be like, I'm super fucking pissed, Rodger, and this is why. And you're like, yeah, tell me about it. Like, oh yeah, you want to hear about it? Yeah, lay it on me. But you knew what to do with it. And you knew how to change that anger, focus that energy, and put it to something that was actually positive for me. That was mind-boggling to me. I'm still baffled at the way that you do that. I don't, maybe one day I'll get to that level to be able to do it. Hopefully I will. Hopefully for my kids, I'll be able to do that. But it is amazing to me how good you are at that particular thing. Taking any energy that comes at you and being, all right, let's just switch that a little bit, send you in a different direction with all that energy, all that force, but in a positive way. Go. All right, fucking right, let's do this, And that's what I did. And it's just become such a part of me to be able to do that now. Because again and again and again and again, we would go through that. Now shit hits me and I'm like, all right, how can I switch this? How do I change this energy? This horrible energy. Oh yeah, there's a way I can use this. It is a teacher to me. This pain is guiding me. Don't, for my kids too. Oh, you burned yourself. Don't do that anymore. It hurts, eh? And I don't get emotionally upset when they get emotionally upset, because now I can guide them from that point of groundedness, so that when they're all emotional, I can be their rock and I can guide them through their emotional turmoil without being emotionally attached to what's going on in their world. And that for them has been huge, because now if I'm not reacting to the same emotional level that they are, they know that, oh, okay, dad's got my back. I can go to him with my emotional, frustrations or upset or sadness, whatever it is, and dad can handle it because I've just done it with you so many times. So many times. I'm not doing it on your level, mind you. I don't think I can handle the stuff that comes your way, but for my kids, I can. And that's huge. And even my friends, they do it all the time now. So yeah, it was probably the most beneficial thing I could have done for myself at the time, was to work with you. There was nothing else that was feeding my life in such a way. So I do, once again, appreciate everything that you've done for me. And I mean, honestly, still continue to do, because we're not done. We're not done, Rodger. We're not done. Yeah, it's not over. It's just not as intense as it was because I've got all these tools now. Yeah.
What a great way to frame it, because life is still going to happen. Look, friends, if you're thinking that you're going to get somewhere and then life is just not going to happen anymore because you're some enlightened, sorry, the Buddhists have it right. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Right? But you're in a place to navigate it. And one of the things that does freak a lot of people out these days is this emotion of anger. Anger scares people. And I understand why. The media portrays anger on the 6 o'clock news as this murder, that assault, so we have this association that somehow anger is bad. You're never going to get away from it as a human. You're a human being. You're going to experience the full range of emotions. But can you express that anger safely in a container, or find a way to work it out by beating that heavy bag, or taking Muay Thai classes and being in an environment where it's okay to have some passion? But even more importantly, a guy named Robert Scheinfeld dropped this one into my consciousness, and it really stuck. He said, "What is anger, or passion, or sadness, or fear, or love, or joy, or what is it?" He said, "In truth, it's an energy running through the inner space of our being that we've assigned a label to."
Yeah.
So think about anger. Oh, I'm angry, destruction, mayhem. Really? Or is it just a very intense energy that you could do something with other than destroy shit? Oh, what? Yeah. How about you change the label to passionate? Now apply that passion and go make the change you want to make. Look at all the energy available to you. Sweet Jesus. That's a store. That's a nuclear friggin' power plant. Go do something with it constructively. Oh, I could do that. Yes, you can. And that's the
Living
difference when
proof.
you awaken
Living
to
proof.
this. Oh, yeah, look at all that energy. Your boys are going crazy, bouncing off the walls. Pillow fight! Woo! Let's use the energy and play.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you've got your boys doing constructive. You told me about this kayak trip. Your boy is bored. He's bored. It's only 10 minutes to get to the island. He's bored. Then you get to the island, but you construct an entire thing where pirates were going to take the island. We're going to find our gold and treasure and booty. And the next thing you know, all that bored energy of the boy that could easily channel into destructive tendencies is turned into creativity, fun, play, expression. That's it. That's it. You are a master of this, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
I know this for sure because you did the Zen Dad method. And I
Yep.
know from that journey, that's a level of mastery, my friend, because you are finding ways to interact with the beautiful young energy of your boys. All that hyperness, all that masculine, and you're not afraid of it. And you're like, let's cultivate it. Let's have some fun. And all of a sudden, instead of maladaptive expressions of beating your brother up or whatever the deal is, you're like, hey, what do you think if we did this, that, and it? And all of a sudden, that masculine creativity is opened up and all that unbridled energy is channeled in a really fun way. That's how you become an empowered man. So congratulations on being an amazing father, the
Thank you.
Zen Dad method, your ability to now navigate life. And you had the bravery to reach out to someone when you were hitting rock bottom. Very few people are willing to be that vulnerable because that is the most vulnerable space, man. When you're down to, I just have no idea how to even take a half step. That's a super vulnerable place for a man.
Yeah.
And what if someone says, I got you. I got you. What you got? Bring it. Let's go.
Well, I was at a point where I didn't know what to do anymore, and I was asking everyone what to do, and most people were like, I have no idea how to help you.
Right.
And you were the only one that was like, oh yeah, I got your back. I got you. I can get you through this. And I was like, bullshit. And I did not believe you at all. because so many people already said no. And you were so confident. You're like, yeah. Let's meet next week and we'll chat about this stuff. And then it was so good. And then it was so good. And it was so good. And you really like it was a huge boulder to push up a mountain, but inch by inch we got it up there. And it was such an important decision to just work with you. I cannot state how much I appreciate you, my kids, how much they appreciate the work that we've done, because it has made me that amazing Zen dad that I've just put out there into the world. Like, hey, do a couple of these things. It's really going to change your life. And yeah, I do. I really appreciate who I am today because of the work that we've done together. So thank you so much, Rodger.
My joy, brother. That's a perfect place for us to end. I'm going to kill this recording.